Welcome back to October 1942 and Unconditional Surrender Case Blue. First, there is correction time. I did some errors during one of the last attacks from the Russians. I forgot to add the country bonus for the Germans. So it means that this unit here couldn't advance because the result where an attacker stopped. So they couldn't advance, but so I'm just going to reverse them up there. It has no effect on supply lines or anything, so just want to have that position correct. And I'm going to unspend all the spent units. Right, let's head over to the weather phase, because finally we get to roll for weather. Because it's now October and we can roll a dice to determine the weather, and we can see already that it is probably not going to be fair. I got a 5, and a 5 in October is actually severe weather, so no, it took a dramatic turn for the worse. I'm going to put my weather mark here now in the severe box. That means it's going to be very difficult to attack, and we are unable to have any air support for our ground attacks. When we attack, we need to divide the result we get by 2 because it's severe weather. Production is now set. Right operations phase for the Axis player. So it's a very tough situation now for the Axis. Perhaps they should just dig in this turn, because in bad weather there is not really much they can do. The panzers are quite ineffective. So due to the bad weather, mobile attacks are pretty much useless. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's say I make an attack against a Soviet unit and I roll very well. Let's say I roll a 6. And then the Soviet player only rolls a 1. So what happens if this is a German unit? Of course it will get modifier +2, and it will not get any bonuses for being tanks, because you don't get that bonus in severe weather. And provided that unit is not in a rough or a city, that's what you get as a modifier. Now that doesn't look so bad, but because it's severe weather, you have to divide the modifier by 2. So that will put me down to 4. So in the case of a 6-1 roll, of course the defender also have to do the same thing, but I mean it will still get a 1. So that will be a defender retreat, and that's on a 6. If I roll a 5-1, it will be here, and a 4-1, then it will have no effect. So I need to roll a 5 or 6, and defender needs to roll a 1. So if the defender rolls a 3, he will have to divide that by 2. Well, that's 1.5, and you round up, so that's a 2. Okay, so again I get a defender retreat if I roll a 6. And if that unit is not a German unit, say, then it's pretty hopeless, because then you get no modifiers and you have to divide by 2. And you can see that a 6-1 barely gives a defender retreat. So if we do an assault instead, then we get to add modifiers for the supporting units. So that may be an option, because then we will be able to push this modifier up the table. I don't know if I explained that very well, but in essence what I figure out by looking at the chart is that if you are a non-German unit, then it makes no sense initiating a mobile attack in severe weather. So the question is if I should initiate the German units here and attack this Russian tank. But what I want to do is actually to save my production points. I only have 8 production points, because I need to refit both of these Panzer units. That is going to cost me 4 points, and I would like to get Luftwaffe up and running again now that it's bad weather. So that's going to cost me 3 more. So that will leave only 1 point now for activating a unit during this phase. And I want to try to do something. I'm going to pay that point, and I will activate the 17th. And I'm going to try to make an assault on the 12th here in the rough. So the reason I picked the outskirts of Rostov to do this is because I can pay 1 for the Romanians and they can join the assault, and also 1 for the Italians and they can join the assault, and that will save the German production points for the refitting. So this German unit is going to be the lead unit, because it's not crossing a river, and it's a German unit, so that will give the entire attack the German bonus. Because it's severe weather, we are not going to fly, well, we don't have any airplanes anyway, but we can't fly ground support in severe weather. Well, basically you can fly, but there is no bonus to it on the die roll, so it has no effect. So I also have this ground support marker available, and I'm going to use that now this turn. I'm going to say that the Romanians are using the ground support marker. They can do that even though they are supporting and not the lead unit in battle, and it will be a +1 DRM or a +1 on the die roll for that ground support marker. So I saw a post on the Board Game Geek answered by the designer that he said that, and he specifically said that you could add ground support markers to supporting units in assault. Now the Soviets, what they have available, they have this tank marker available, but it makes no sense to use it because if they treat this unit now as a tank, there's no modifier, there's no positive modifier for that in severe weather. So it makes no sense for them to use it, and they can't fly air support because there's no positive modifier for that either. So they will just be using sorties without getting any benefit from it. So that's it, that's how it's going to play out. This unit is not isolated because it's adjacent to friendly units, but it has no retreat possibility, so if we are very lucky, then we can take it out. But I haven't made the calculations theoretically, so I don't know if it's possible to do that in severe weather. We just have to roll and see. I don't actually like to pre-calculate too much because I mean, then it's going to be down to mathematics, and this is a game, so it should not be about mathematics. It should be about passion and feel and intuition. Probably makes me a poor wargamer. Okay, so let's do the attack. Assaulting the Russians just north of Rostov. It's an equal roll 5-5. Then it's going to be very difficult. So let's see if we remember everything. The lead unit is German, so that's +2. And it's going to be -1 because it is a rough. And then they get a +1 for the ground support they added. And it's an assault, so they get +1 for every additional attacker. So they are up to 9. That's not half bad. But then they have to divide that result by 2. And that is 4.5. And round it up, that should be 5. You have to divide it by 2 because it's severe weather. Then you have to divide your calculated modifier by 2, which is a hefty penalty. Well, the Russians are just normal infantry. So that's all they get. They don't get any modifiers, and they also have to divide their result by 2 because they are defending in a hex affected by severe weather. So the weather affects everybody equally. 5 by 2, that should be 2.5. That's rounded up, it's 3. And actually, this is a good result for the Germans. They get a defender retreat. I don't think they could have hoped for anything better. The 12th has to retreat, but they can't because every zone around them is occupied. So they will be reduced instead. So now we need to figure out when this marker comes back. We just roll a die and see. It comes back in 4 turns, so we'll see it one more time if the game is not ending prior to that. It comes back in February 1943 actually. Okay, so these units are spent. I'm just going to remember that. And this one is reduced. The Germans are not doing anything else this turn, and the Romanians have spent this unit, and the other one they don't bother attacking with. So there's not a chance that they can do anything there. The Italians are spent their unit, but the Hungarians have 1 unit left. Now I'm going to keep them there, they're not moving either. So that will end the German operation phase. And they check for supply, yeah. So that's okay, I think everybody is in supply. Yeah. This still tracks through the Italians and the Romanians, and this guy checks down here, yeah. So they're good, they're in supply, and then we are just heading straight into the Russians' turn. They have a possibility to bring out a new Air Force unit and also some shock units. So they should save about 4 points, that's okay, they have 12. So they can move a lot of troops and they can attack with a lot of troops. But the same applies to them, of course, that attacking in severe weather is very difficult, unless they do an assault. But I'm going to activate underneath here one Soviet Union unit here and one here. They are going to assault the 6th, and the 12th is going to support that. The 6th here is the lead unit, so there will be no penalties for attacking across the strait, attacking across the river. That is putting the Soviets down to 9 production points. Okay, that is probably not going to be enough. The Germans, they get 2 for being Germans. That's the nationality bonus. The Soviets, they don't have any bonus for the nationality. The hex is open and clear, so that's good. They don't get any negative modifiers for rough or city. There's no modifiers to the roll, else than, since this is an assault, we get 1 for the 2 units that are supporting it. And because this is a severe weather, everything now has to be divided by 2, so they will be down to 3 points. And the Axis of the Germans are down to 3.5, and that's 4 if you round up. So nothing happens. Yeah, that's fine. Perhaps I should just mark the units with spent. It makes almost no sense to try to assault the city in severe weather, because there will be no tank modifiers. I don't think the Russians will do anything more offensively, but let's see if they can reposition themselves. I'm going to activate the 9th Army. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Moving them in position for an attack the next round. That was 5 points to get there, and I need to deduct 1 for activating that, 1 production point. Soviets are down to 8 points. It would be interesting to move the 44th down here, but this hex is actually not on the map. If you look on the original map, this hex is just a black hole, so I'm assuming this hex is not allowed to play in. This one is okay, this one is okay, and this one is okay, but not this one. Just taking it 44th, 1, 2, 3, down here. And they will stop. 7 production points for the Soviets. And that's it. We check supply now, and everybody is in supply, so that's fine. Okay, that was not much action in severe weather in October 1942. So the no supply phase we skip because no units are out of supply. Replacements. The Germans are paying 4 to refit or replace units in the 4th Panzer here. So this guy is refitted into a full strength Panzer unit. Same with the 1st Panzer. That's all the replacement. Or oh no, they are also going to pay 3, the last 3 production points they have, to remove 2 sorties from the 4th Luftfleet. And finally, they're back in action with the Air Force. Over to the Soviets. They will be paying 1 point to refit the 12th. Yeah, I was thinking if I should reduce these sorties with 2, it will cost me 3 points, but then I can't bring on the 2nd Air Force. I rather do that, so I stopped the refit now for the Soviets, or the replacements for the Soviets. So the upgrade phase, there is no upgrades available, and then it's the mobilization phase, and the Axis faction do not have any units to mobilize. They have all their units on the map actually. The Soviets, though, they have actually some units they could mobilize, so they will pay 1 to get on this shock unit, but this one has to come on in a reduced state. It's only the regular infantry for the Soviets that can come on in a full state, coming on the map in Kursk. So yeah, I think this is now a friendly city because I have liberated Kursk. So I will have it coming on in Kursk. 3 more points, and they have the 4th Air Force. The Russian 4th Air Force can come on. I will put it on in Kursk. So it comes on with 4 sorties on. So it can fly a little bit. Victory check. Well, not yet, but soon, perhaps, for the Soviets. The end of turn phase, moving from October 1942 until November 1942, the Axis player gets a ground support marker. Next turn there will be a lot of things happening for the Soviets player. Upgrades and partisan markers and heavy artillery, I think. So